Okay, today's video is about this subject, the topic of faith, religion, theism, etc. So my opposition, people who oppose me, disagree with me, etc., are making the argument that everything is faith-based and assumed on belief, and they're extending this out to public cafeteria. And it doesn't make sense because you would assume that there's a likelihood people won't poison you because they've served thousands of people, maybe 20,000, 30,000 people before with no incident. You would assume that logically, with or without a existence of a faith-based belief system, or without the existence or with the existence of a deity of any kind. Like, it doesn't require that. I would assume that that would be the case even without any faith. I mean, and there's also an assumption that you wake up every day. There's also an assumption that you don't get killed in the middle of the night by a family member. So, there's that. It just, you don't think that will happen because you have a high probability of it not occurring because it hasn't happened yet. It hasn't happened before, and you don't know any instances where it did happen. Faith is twisted out of its original meaning when it's a synonym for trust. No, that's not how faith works, and that's never what it meant. Faith is like blind belief, blind trust. That's called being a fool. But a lot of people in religious circles do this because they don't really have a reason outside of faith. Just because the guy, see, these are the things. This guy, because he's the guy opposing, just because the guy opposing is an atheist, they're saying he's a Redditor. Specifically a mod. People don't understand how many subreddits there are, how many active subreddits there are, and then how many moderators in those subreddits there are. If you were to total it up, there'd probably be about under 1,000. There's maybe 3 moderators, 4 or 5 at most, in any given subreddit, and I know what he's trying to do here, but it's just stupid. He's not thinking anything out. I mean, he's just jibber-jabbering. If you watch the actual clip, he's giving long, extended answers because it makes him look intelligent, because he's able to talk a long form. And it's not really a proof of intelligence. Anyone can do it if they yap long enough. I mean, I've heard my mother yap on for like 5-6 minutes, and I wouldn't call her intelligent. I can yap on for an hour. I can yap on for like 2 hours if I really want. So, I mean, it doesn't mean anything. And I'll play a bit of the clip here, so.
Right? We still believe, at least in the liberal arts context, we still believe in a free exchange of ideas. If we stop exchanging ideas, then we're really not getting much of a liberal arts education, are we? So I certainly hope you support free speech.
I don't see how you can...
So, you see how he interrupted him there? I'm just talking to this guy in particular here, this commenter. So, you see how he interrupted him and just kept yapping? He wanted to overpower the opponent with long-winded speeches and try to shout him down effectively. But because he's doing it in a sort of cordial manner, it makes him come off as a bit more civil, even though you could tell he's like fuming the whole time.
You can combine intelligence and faith.
You bet.
So he asks a question. He's like, how can you combine the two things?
Prove to me that the University of Florida is going to give you a diploma on your day of graduation. Prove to me that on your day of graduation...
I mean, he can't prove that they will give him a diploma, but he can prove that other kids in the same age bracket, younger, older, etc., within the same general group have gotten their diploma, and he most likely will as well if he follows the same things they did. So he can go based off probability. That which doesn't require faith. You don't need to be you don't need to have blind trust to believe in probability. That's just you could do that. You would do that regardless of faith, I feel. I mean, you walk, right? You walk around and you have a trust that your leg won't give out, or have a trolley hearse in the middle of walking. You cross the street and you assume generally that your leg isn't going to give out. You assume you won't have a heart attack in the middle of the street when you're walking past cars. So that's just an assumption, and you do it based off precedent, which is why he's here with no security. Right? That's why he's here with no security. He trusts he won't get shot. Every single group ever has said that. If you ask the ancient Nordics, or even like current Norse pagans, they'd probably believe something similar, as goes with like any religion. That's kind of the problem with this guy's statement. Like, anyone who is in a belief system thinks their belief system's right. You know what I mean? Like, anyone who disagrees with you, I don't care who disagrees with you, the person who disagrees with you thinks they're right. They think that their beliefs are more correct than whatever you think. So, I mean, this really is just the same for anybody else. In a very wider context, obviously. Everybody thinks they are right. And so you often get this in like fan communities. Like, for example, I hear a lot of Boruto fans, a lot of God of War fans. Well, why does so many people think this? Because your polling groups, the people you're seeing that are doing this are specifically fans, or specifically ones who like this certain thing. So you're polling people who are biased, essentially. When you honestly respond to these people and you say, okay, so why does Christians think Christians are white? Maybe because they're Christians. And they're like, that's just mean. I'm like, so why do you think atheists think atheists are right? Why do you think Muslims think Muslims are right? Like, it literally applies to all groups. Every single group ever thinks they're right. Muslims think that, God is true. I mean, what's the Muslim God again? I don't remember the name on top of my head. Judaism thinks their God's right. Buddhism thinks Buddha's real. Hinduism thinks Shiva's real. I don't remember the name of the Muslim God. Normally I'm pretty good about that. But I'll look it up after. Allah, that's what it is. Allah. I just remembered. No, I don't believe in anything. That's my problem. I honestly don't believe in anything. I go entirely based on logic, and I mean, you could argue that there's biases to my logic, but again, just prove me wrong. Just prove me wrong. That supposes the guy in question is a right-winger. I mean, a left-winger, my bad. There is atheistic left-wingers. That is a thing. I mean, atheistic right-wingers, my bad. My bad. Actually, there's a whole movement of right-wing atheists. So, I mean, just because the guy who killed Charlie Kirk was a leftist, a liberal, does not mean that the guy in question is a leftist. We don't know his political values. You're just assuming such. I mean, that atheists are more commonly left-wing, but it doesn't inherently mean he's left-wing. It's much less of a giveaway than being like trans, because trans is a lot more specific to left-wing, whereas Whereas being atheist is not really, there isn't really a political slant to atheism, right? So you're just kind of being dishonest. Okay, so final argument, and I'm gonna shut this off because there's a time limit, and because people don't care about my commentary. But most of our history books were written by people. Yep, that's true. But most of history has records, we have swords or statues of various things. Not to mention, none of these history books have people with magical powers, or they don't have gods, demons, or any other fantastical element. Alexander the Great did not do anything magical. He's just a guy. It's not hard to buy into. It's very easy to buy into. He's just a guy. And Napoleon the Great, just a guy. Emperor Napoleon, just a guy. Blackbeard, just a pirate, just a guy, right? Nobunaga, just a guy. Adolf Hitler, just a guy. Attila the Hun, just a guy. Like, they're not in any way fantastical. We can get into, like, mythological figures, which do have a fantastical element, but that's why they're fantastical, that's why they're mythological characters and not historical figures, despite being in history. Despite being a relevant part of history, in Nordic culture, Thor is not considered a history figure. He is not considered a historical figure, because he is fantastical, because he is a deity. That is why. Okay, I'll do one more. People go to college to get higher education, to get better paying jobs. It has nothing to do with listening to ideas. Whoever told you that is brainwashed. That he was attacked because the person was a hardcore raging leftist, with a trans girlfriend and with various leftist inscribings on his bullets. It had nothing to do with atheism or religious belief. Stop with this nonsense. Literally stop with it.